Good morning, everybody. Today is Codeforces round 682. I'm a little bit late, and it looks like problem A is easy, but I'll be competing in it today, and then at the end of the contest, I'll share my solutions to all the problems that I know how to solve. So if you're looking for solutions, you can skip to the end of the video, and there will be timestamps in the description. All right, problem A. Andre has very specific tastes. He started falling in love with arrays. He calls a non-empty array B good if the sum of its elements is divisible by its length. Okay, he calls it perfect if every non-empty subarray is good. For every I, it's between 1 and 100. Output any perfect array of length n. We can show that under the given constraints, an array always exists. So just make everything its own value except for the first thing. Sounds plausible? If we want it of size 1 and 24, yep, all right, sounds good. Good. Well, it's fun to be back doing this. I took a little break, which was nice, I guess. But it's always fun to do a Codeforces round, right? So we'll read B while this is loading. How about that? Valerie against the world. You've got an array B of length n. You also have another array, also of length n, where the ith element is 2 to the b. Okay. Every two non-intersecting subarrays have different sums of elements. Got it. Well, if it has any duplicates, then the answer should be no. Okay, this is just going to say this is poorly worded because you want to determine if he's wrong, but then you print whether he's right. So you should say you want to determine whether... Oh, I guess you are determining whether he's wrong. That's fine. But like, I don't know. I just find it kind of confusing. So basically just are there duplicates? No, that's not true. There might not be duplicates, but it might still be impossible. Well, anyway. Okay, let's open up problem A. What was the solution to this? I've forgotten already. Oh, yeah. Wait, hang on. Every subarray. Oh wait, it can just be all ones then. Divisible by its length, not its index. Yeah, okay, just all ones. That took me a minute, not gonna lie. All right, well, I'm not registered, so it's fine. Okay, so what's up with this problem? we want to see if there are 4 integers where we have some range that's equal to some other range. Yeah, so you might have like 1, 1, 2, that sums to 4. So that's a concern. So let's think about this for a minute. If we have something like, we can have 1, 1, 1, 1, and that sums to 3, right? Because this is equals, well, this is 2 to the 0, so it wouldn't be 1s. It would be, these would be 0s. So this array would be 1, 1, 1, 1. And this would sum to 2 to the 2. Okay. We could also have 2 to the 0 plus 2 to the 1 plus 2 to the 0, which is, I guess, a bit more confusing because this also works. How big is it? It's pretty small. Oh, wait, hang on, I didn't even read this. In array C, every 2 non-intersecting subarrays have different elements. Oh yeah, got it. So this is not important. So is there some range of things from the left and some range of things from the right that are the same? Choosing this, well, this is just unhelpful because you could choose 8 and this. My question is, do you ever need some range to include multiple numbers? So you could have like 1, 2, and then a 1, but this is like a 1024. Oh, if you have any duplicates, then you're fine. Yeah, that's it. Are there any duplicates in the array? Because if there are duplicates, then you're good. If there aren't duplicates, you can't overflow the integers. Cool. Very good. Can we register? Not yet. It's 15 minutes in, I think. Problem C. Artem is building a new robot. He has a matrix of n rows and m columns. The cell located in the ith row from the top, jth row from the column, has value aij written on it. If 2 adjacent cells have the same value, the robot will break. Matrix is good if no 2 adjacent cells contain the same value. He wants to increment the value in some cells by 1 to make this good. For the constraints of the problem, it can be shown that this always exists. There are several such tables, so you can output any of them. You don't have to minimize the number of increments. Okay, so yeah, so the idea here, I think, is if we two-color this, if you make all of these things even, and all of the non-red squares odd, then you're good. It's 3 by 2, blah blah blah, 2 by 2, 2 by 2. Okay, yeah, that's the idea. H equals this, width equals this. Oh, we don't even need to write it in. So now 4, how big is it? It's pretty small. Okay, 4 int I equals 0, I is less than, 4 y equals 0, y less than h, y plus plus, 4 int x equals 0, x less than width, x plus plus. Int next equals this if x plus y mod 2 equals 0. Then sys out next, otherwise sys out. Alright, we can do next plus next mod 2. And then we can do next plus 1 minus 2. I think that'll be different parodies, so we should be fine. Oh, this needs to be print. Then plus a space. And then line here, and then we should be fine. Okay. Not right. What? Oh wait, this is fine. 2, 3, 5, 6. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, now we have this one. 8, 9. No. Oh, it includes 8, 9 here, okay. Then this is 2, 1, 3, 4. Yeah, that looks fine. Very good. And we can register in 22 seconds. So I guess we'll just, oh, we can register already. And I'm not even logged in. What's going on? Man, I was probably registered the whole time then. Hello? I think I'm registered. I could have sworn I've registered already. Okay, never mind. That's good. It means I wasn't waiting in nothing. Okay, submit to problem A. Do Java. Looks good. Submit to problem B. Submit to problem C. CF notifications is great for exactly this situation when the queue is backed up and you would like to be notified. Here we go. How's the volume? Oh. I'm not going to be able to hear it. Well, I guess, how about I'll put this headphone in for a minute. Oh, I can just, I'm kind of a silly goose, aren't I? There you go. Now we can all hear it, even better. All right, so we'll get notified when that finally finishes and we know whether we were right. Another array. Man, so many problems about arrays, and arrays are fun, so I'm not complaining. In one operation, she can do the following. Choose 3 different indices. Change all of them to the XOR of all of them simultaneously. She wants to make all values equal and at most in operations. Alright, we gotta... Nice. I see. You want to make all of them equal. Well, let's think about it for a minute. If we had 3 things, like, or if we had 5 things like this, so we can get all of these to be the same value. Let's say these are all 1, 0. Okay. Now maybe we have 1, 1 over here. The left side is all the same and the right side is all the same. We can always take 2 elements here and 1 element here and turn them into the same value. That's always possible. We'll turn the 2 into the 1, really, but yeah. So this would be maybe too many operations, though. It'd be n log n operations. So this is 4, this is 2, this is 1, this is 7, and this is 4. So they just like hit it on the head and go like that, get a perfect first try. Yeah, but that's not how you actually solve the problem. Okay, so yeah, it'd be too slow, right? This would be not gonna work. So you would have a group of 3, you would have another group of 3 and a group of 1. If you want to merge 2 things, this would take... Ooh, this is kind of tricky. How do you merge? Yeah. If you have 2 things that are the same, you can set both of them to some third thing. Is it always possible? It's not. Okay, that's interesting. What is the difficulty looking like? There's a little bit of a jump. It's fair. All right. So let's think about this for a minute. When would it be impossible? What if we have this? Here's a group of 4. We could get this. That's fine. We could set all of these to 0 even. Ooh, you don't change the final XOR. You have A XOR B XOR C, right? You have this value. Yeah. You don't change the final XOR at all. So if it's even and the XOR isn't 0, then the answer is no. Okay, that's one case. What else is there? If it's odd, maybe you just leave one of the elements out. Like if it's odd, in the example they gave, they left the 2 out. But I don't see why you would have to do that. You might not have to. So let's first think about whether it's possible. We can get easier than this if we just don't worry about the number of moves. The reason is we can think about a binary array. Because if we have something like this, so this is going to be impossible. Yeah, this is impossible. So let's make it this then. Well, now it is possible because we can set everything to 0 because the XOR is 0. So what if we have this? So this is also possible because we can pick these 3, set them all to 1. Okay, got it. So if it's even, or if it's odd, what would make it impossible here? We can say so these two are different. We've got this, We can set all of them to 0. So now we have 0, 0, 0. These two are different. We have this. Uh-oh, so that doesn't work. So if we have an even number of ones, then we can set them all to 0. Well, and we have at least one 1. That observation tells us very little. I guess it tells us a little, but it's not wrong, because all this is going after is the fact that the XOR doesn't change of those 3 numbers. So it's a safe thing to assume. It's also the same process. Yeah, if the length is odd, setting them all to 0 is like the same thing as setting them all to 1 if you just flip all the 0s into 1s. Because the value doesn't actually matter, it's just whether it's, it's just whatever. If you have 3 things, you keep it. If you have 2 and 1, you take the minority. And then if you have, well, I guess that's the only 2 possibilities for 3 things. Either 3 that are the same or 1 that's different. Yeah, so either take the minority or take what the universally supported thing. So if the length is odd, it's always possible. Okay, so let's come up with some way of doing it for if the length is odd. Some construction here. If we want to turn all 0s to 1s, we can do that by picking, well, what happens if we just pick these first 2 elements? Pick these 2, push it here, these 2, push it here, these 2, push it here. So now this thing is the XOR of all of the elements in the array. We also have pairwise equality. So now we can come back and push this back to everyone. Got it. All right, so that is what you do if the length is odd. What if it's even? If it's even, ooh, okay. Let's think about that for a minute. Can we do the same thing? We can make 2 odd groups. We can set, no, you can't make 2 odd groups. An even number divided by 2 is not necessarily odd. What am I saying? In this case, you can make two odd groups, but that's not super helpful. So let's talk about size 8. We can try pushing things here. The issue is we'll wind up with one left over. But maybe that doesn't matter, because if these are all the same value and the XOR is 0, that means this thing is that value. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Because we never changed the XOR. Yeah, good. Okay, how many people have this? That was a good problem. I feel like I made a lot of steps there, and it felt very satisfying to solve. So I'm a fan. It was very fun. Sorry, I just checked to see if it was a single test case, and then I forgot. It is. Okay. Int n equals this. Int array a equals read array n. If n mod 2 is equal to 0. Otherwise, the answer is yes. Okay, what do we print? The number, or which operations? How many operations? Okay. So int n groups will be n minus 1 divided by 2 floored. N groups times 2. So set all of these to 4, then 1 XOR 7 XOR 4. 1 XOR 7 is 6, XOR 4 is 2, so set all of these to 2, then set these to 2, set these to 2. Sounds good. All right, that's fine. We need print writer. Very good. One more time. And let's try this as well. No. Good, good. Submit problem D. What am I doing? Java files, competitive programming. No. Java files, Codeforces. This is a hard div too.
Problem did not wrong answer test 1, sir.
No, it didn't. Did not. Got right answer test 1. What are you talking about? Did I misunderstand the problem? Okay, hang on, let's try it. Oh, yep, this is wrong. This should be 2 times I plus 1, 2 times I plus 1, 2 times I plus 2, and 2 times I plus 2. Yeah, much better. So Submit. Problem E. There you go. Totally right. I've proved it mathematically. Couldn't be anything else. Problem E. Yuri can do everything. So can I. No, just kidding. I can't do problem F if Andrew he can't do it. But I sure can if Andrew he can. So we'll see. You got an array of n positive integers. Let's consider a subarray good if the following conditions are simultaneously satisfied. The subarray has length. Why would they not just say that? Okay, anyway, subarray has length at least 3. The XOR of the endpoints is equal to the XOR of the middle. You want to calculate the total number of good subarrays. What is it equal to? Interesting question. It's an n squared over 64. What's the announcement? Oh, they're making the round unrated. Oh, that's too bad. Well, where was I before it was made unrated? 35th place? Oh, man. That's fine. Oh, well. We'll keep playing just for fun, because I enjoy it. Subarray is good if the bitwise OR of the two border elements is equal to the sum of the rest. Calculate the total number of good subarrays. So what are they asking us for? We've got some stuff. Let's use this example. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, I can tell you that's not part of any of them. So it's initially 3. So now you want the XOR of these. You want the XOR of this to be equal to the XOR of the middle. If that's the case, that's just the same as saying the XOR of the whole thing is 0, right? Are those ever not the same thing? Yeah, because if these XORs are equal, then the whole XOR of the whole thing is just 0. And the XOR of the whole thing, like, if the XOR of the whole thing is 0, that means the XOR of these two things. So it's like an if and only if. So they're just saying how many ranges, how many continuous ranges have an XOR of 0? So we can just do prefix sums, I think, right? So 3, 2, 0, 3, 2, 0. And then some big number. So we've got this is an XOR of 0, this is an XOR of 0, this is an XOR of 0. This is also, and this is also. And also, I think, we have a 0 in the beginning. Is that not 7? You're telling me the answer is 6 here. Why would the answer be 6? Well, we can do this part here. We can do this here. We can do this. We can do this. It's 3 to a 3. 0 to a, we've got an imaginary 0 here, 0 to a 0. Zero to this 0. This also works. This also works. And this also works. That is 7, my friend. Oh, got it. It's the sum of the middle, not the XOR of the middle. So I'm solving the wrong problem. Okay, makes sense. The XOR of the outsize is equal to the sum of the middle. I see. So the sum of the middle is always increasing, right? As you increase the length, the middle increases. So there are only like log n different places you need to check. So that's what our solution is going to end up looking like. Let's figure out the details right now. So if you've got some things like this, let's say hypothetically we know this left endpoint. If we're considering this endpoint, okay, we can check this, that's fine. Otherwise, we need the first thing that is greater than or equal to this value to the right of this. Yeah, so we care about like new maxes. So let's have like a tree set of new maxes. That's probably helpful for implementing. Then we want the first thing that's big enough. Okay, let's try this. So maybe it's this thing. Then we check if this works. So we can check if it works really easily in order 1. Otherwise, we have to include it. So then we do include it, and we jump to the next one. We've got this tree set of new maxes. We also need prefix sums. I think that's it. All right, let's start coding that up then. Okay, so we're gonna want a tree set of maxes. Yeah. So now we want a tree set, pair, yes, a tree set. And hopefully the text wasn't too small, but whatever. So now int max equals a of 0 minus 1. Point I 0 less than plus plus. If a at I is greater than max, then max equals a at I. I think my logic's solid. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my logic is solid. No, it's not. Because you can include the first element that you start with. Huh. Yeah. Okay, back to the drawing board. Because we might want a really big sum. We might want a really big sum because this element here might be really big. Yeah, okay. So I'm not solid on that. It's a tricky problem for sure. So it took Andrew 17 minutes. Anderson, you can do better, Anderson. Come on, man. Okay, what about, how do we do this? Yeah, maybe the solution path is just not right then. I still feel like there are not that many candidates that are actually relevant. The XOR of the two endpoints is equal to the sum of the things in the middle. What if instead we thought about brute forcing what the middle is rather than brute forcing the endpoint? It might make it easier. So let's say this is the start of our middle. We know as we increase this, it's guaranteed that the sum is going to increase because we're adding up more positive numbers. We also are XORing something with this. This is tricky for sure. Wait, no, that's not how that works at all. It's just the XOR of the two endpoints, not anything having to do with the range. So this is 2, this is 1, this is 0. So we've got some prefix sum 1. This is like some P1. We'll have some mystery P2. And then we have X1. And we'll have some mystery X2. So we want P1 or P2 minus P1 to be equal to X1 XOR X2. Yeah, how does this even seem remotely approachable? The XOR of two things which have almost no relation to the prefix sums. Oh, I'm sorry. In general, this sounds like a difficult problem. It seems like the kind of thing where you really have to use the fact that the sums are increasing. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm just headed down the wrong path. I'm just going to be kind of honest here, though. This kind of seems like it's a little bit too challenging. Because, like, if an LGM can't solve set in half of the time limit, I think you're kind of indicating that that a purple is not going to be able to solve set, or you won't have more than a couple of purples who solve set, which is fine. So I don't know. I feel like it's definitely challenging enough, at least. But anyway. I guess maybe I'll think about this one. It's tricky though. Uyghur wants to find the key to Olha's heart. Olha's heart? Olha. The problem is that it's the root of a binary tree. There is a perfect binary tree of height h consisting of 2 to the h minus 1 nodes. The nodes have been assigned distinct labels from 1 to n. However, he knows h and does not know which labels correspond to which node. He needs to find the label assigned to the root by making queries of at most n plus 420 times. Select 3 distinct labels. In response, Ola will tell him the label of the lowest common ancestors of nodes u and v if the tree was rooted at the node labeled w instead. So so like where the paths meet. Grader is not adaptive. Which makes it seem like that's where the 420 comes from. Yeah, so of course that part's just for the memes, but it seems like if it's small, you can always do it in like 400 operations. But if it's big, it seems like you can usually avoid uncertainty and find some information about the tree. It's an interesting problem. Yeah, I don't really know where to start on that. What flavor text? I mean, that's one heck of a story, right? It's a good thing we've got a character for this story, otherwise, where would we be? Yuri, I'm sorry, I don't know that I can help you solve this problem. What if we went bit by bit? So like if we were somehow able to clear the XOR of the first number from everything, then the question is, like we know what P1 is. If we were somehow able to like XOR equals everything with X1, then we know this. So we just say how many values are equal to or how many values have a difference between these. Are equal to P1. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So this part is an easy question to answer. Now the hard part is everyone XOR equals by X1. This is a very difficult query because it doesn't play well with the differences. Yeah, it's really P2 minus like X2, XOR, X1. We're gonna have to go into what subtraction looks like in binary. You've got the carry bits. That seems like it's not gonna work out. I don't see it. I don't see how to do it. 20 people were able to get it. The rest of the 10,000 were not. Possibly legit, but it sounds unlikely. Yeah, okay. Well, I think I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not making really any progress on this, so I think I might go over solutions now. And then if something just hits me, if I'm struck with a stroke of genius, then maybe I'll keep going on this. But otherwise, I don't have any ideas to follow at the moment. Cool. All right, solution time. Oh man, only the first 4 problems. What am I doing today? Not very well. I guess maybe I'm a bit rusty. That'll be my excuse for today, since haven't done a contest in a little bit, but it's pretty early in the contest, to be honest. Okay, problem A. Yeah, so you want the length of the subarray to be divisible by the sum of the subarray, which means that like the number of elements in some continuous range, so if you've got a bunch of elements like this, the number of elements in some range is divisible by its sum. If you make every element in the array the same, then that will be the case. So if you make them all 1, for instance, then the length of this subarray will be 3. If each of these are 1, the sum of it will also be 3. So that's exactly how you do it. In other words, you can just print n ones. Very good. That's problem A. Let's move on to problem B. Yeah, okay. So for this problem, this is a bit more tricky, but you want to determine if there are any 2 ranges where if you raise every element to the power of 2, if there are any 2 ranges that are disjoint but sum to the same values. So the samples are pretty good. They give you 8, or they give you 16, then 8, 1, 2, 4, 1. So what they point out to you is if you consider this range here and this range here, they have the same sum. So 16 is equal to 8 plus 1 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. And that's true. However, there's a much easier example in this case, which is this one and this one. So you can pick those 2 elements, and that would be an even easier way of finding some 2 ranges that are disjoint that sum to the same value. In fact, it's really easy to check if there are any duplicates. If there are any duplicates, you can just pick those 2 ranges, each of size 1, and that will work. Because this is going to be 2 to the 0, this is 2 to the 0, so you'll just have 2 zeros in the array that you're given. Now that's fine and all, but you're probably wondering, well, there might not be two duplicates, David, but it might still be possible, right? Like, we've handled this very simple case, but we haven't worried about the case where maybe you can add a bunch of numbers up together that'll equal some power of 2. Well, that's just not going to happen. The reason why is in binary, if you write out numbers like this, you can imagine just adding them in base 10, and every time you get a number that's 2 or 0, that's like a bad event that you have to worry about because you'll have carryover bits. So here we have like the number, what is this, 2 to the 4, so 16. I guess this would be, or this is 8, this is 4, maybe we add a 1, like this. Maybe these are the 3 numbers that we're adding up. Well, it'll just be something like that, right? So there will never be, like, we'll never carry over to 1's digits that aren't here unless we have at least 2 1 bits in some column. And since every number here is a power of 2, if we ever do have 2 1 bits in that columm, that means there's some duplicate number in our array. So really, all of this problem is are there any duplicates in the array? That's the entire problem. The code for that is obviously super clean, and it's almost the exact same as the code for the previous problem. But you just add all numbers to a hash set and check if the hash set is size n. You could also sort and then check if any adjacent pairs are the same. You could even do an n squared and then just check if any 2 things are the same there. There are a bunch of ways of implementing it. Basically, the hard part is determining that it's just asking if there are any 2 duplicates. All right, problem C. You want to make some matrix good where no 2 adjacent cells are the same. And you want to do it by incrementing some of the values, but not all of the values. You don't have to increment the fewest number of values, but you can't increment any value more than once. So as an example, you might have a grid that starts like this. And you don't want, like, these 2 values are currently the same, so are these 2. You don't want these to be the same. So one thing you might do is maybe you decide to make this a 2. So you increment this into a 2. Now, this one also has an issue, right? You've got problems here. So you are going to have to increment either it or this neighbor. So in this case, if we increment this, it'll be the same as this neighbor, so we'll have an issue. So we have to increment this element here. So now this is a 2. We also have an issue here and an issue here. So we can increment this thing to a 3, and that'll solve this case. So this will be a 2, and this will be a 3. So after we've done these operations, no pair is the same. That's what we're looking for. We can also notice something about this array, which is pretty convenient, which is these numbers are all even. The other 3 are all odd, which is nice because an even number is never going to be the same as an odd number. So we've got this checkerboarded pattern, and all of 1 squares are even, the other squares are odd. That'll get us what we want. If you have some number and you want to add either +0 or +1 to it, then you can always determine whether you want it to be even or odd. And we can just insert this checkerboard pattern into whatever the matrix is. So once we make all of the even squares even, like the x plus y squares, if that number is even, we make the square even. If x plus y is odd, we make the square odd. Then we'll have this checkerboard pattern, and that's what we're looking for. All right, very cool. Then last one that I know how to solve is problem D. So let me explain what's going on there. You've got an array of n positive integers, and one operation you can set 3 values to the XOR of those 3 values. So as an example, maybe you have the numbers 1, 5, and 7. The XOR of these 3 numbers is 4. Right, so this is 0, 0, 1, this is 1, 0, 1, this is 1, 1, 0. So if we write these in a column, the XOR, oh wait, JK, the XOR is 0? No, the XOR is 2. The XOR is 2. Anyway, it's not really important, but afterwards we would set each of these values to 2. And the rest of the values in the array would stay the same as how they are. The goal of the problem is to make everything equal. So we want to make a bunch of elements that are all the same. So one thing to notice here is when we do this operation, we don't actually change the XOR of the entire array. What I mean by that, or I guess the reason why that's the case, is before the XOR of these three values was 2, right? Afterwards, the XOR of these two values will cancel out, and now you'll still be left with an XOR of 2. So we can do as many operations as we want, but the XOR of the array isn't going to change. It's always going to be whatever it initially was. That's pretty important if the size of the array is even. So if we have like 4 elements, for instance, and the XOR isn't 0, that means no matter what we do, we'll end up with 3 numbers here. Maybe these 3 are all the same. Whatever this 4th number is, it's going to be different from these first 3. Because we know the XOR of the array doesn't change, and it's not going to be 0. So yeah, so it's impossible if you have an even array where the XOR isn't 0. So there's that. But then on top of that, we can say, what if the array is like an odd length, for instance? So maybe we have something that looks like this. Maybe we have 5 elements. Well, what we can do is, I guess I'll just kind of spoil the solution here. It's more of just like a epiphany to figure it out, I think, than some path you can take consistently. But you can make this element here equal to the XOR of everything. So that's going to be the first step. And the way we can do that is we'll pick these first 2 elements in this element, and we'll take the XOR of all 3 of these and store it in the third one. In other words, we're going to say this first element XOR equals these 2. Okay? Then we'll do it with the next pair. A nice side effect of doing this is when we do it like this, these 2 elements will now be the same. So these are both like X maybe, these are both Y. That works out just fine. But on top of that, now we have the XOR we're trying to reach. So we can now take this and plug it back in and set both of these X's to whatever the target value is. We won't actually change what the final XOR is because these 2 things will cancel each other out since they're the same. And they'll be the same after we do this operation. So basically what we can do is just first push everything into the last element, and then we can take the last element and just push it back into everything else. Then everything will be the same. So that's exactly what we're looking for. Now that handles the odd case just fine. What about the even case? Well, I think I kind of already mentioned what happens with the even case, but here's the idea. We're still going to do the same thing. We're going to take all of these elements, push them into the last element. So now this is going to be the cumulative XOR of everything except this element. Then we can push everything back. So now we'll push these 2 back. And all of these first 4 elements will all be the same, and the last element will be the same as all of them. But you still have this element left over. And this one, you haven't touched it at all. It's going to stay the same. However, we know that if the length is even, the XOR of everything has to be equal to 0. Which tells us that the XOR of this part here is going to be equal to the XOR of this value here, since the XOR of the entire thing is 0. These 2 need to cancel out, which means for these first things, these pairs will cancel each other out, which just means these 2 elements will be the same if the XOR of the entire array needs to be 0. So what we can tell is initially if the XOR of all of the elements was 0, then this will just work out how it's supposed to. We don't need to worry about it. We can just trust it'll be fine, and at the end it'll come out being the right number. Now if we do that, the code actually turns out to be really simple. Sorry, I didn't show my code for C, but that's what it looks like. It's, again, very simple. Clean it up even a bit more. There you go. The code is also just very, very simple. So first we just check to see is the XOR 0 if there are an even number of elements. If there are, we just do that. So we just print 1, 2, and then the last element, 3, 4, the last element, all the way up to the end, and then we do it a second time. And that's it. Cool. Yeah, that's problem D. Problem E, I don't know how to do. And problem F, I haven't really thought about too hard. So, yeah. I guess, good job to this guy for his great start on the contest. And nice job to Andrew for winning. Solid, solid. I like it. Yeah. I don't know about these last two problems. I'm not sure how to do them, to be honest. So maybe I'll have to take a peek at the editorial. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next contest, I guess. Goodbye.